Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk about the subject that inspires us so much. The theme of FEBRABAN TECH 2025. So we'll talk about especially of AI, not just software engineering. I represent Santander as a CIO, but also from FIRST, our tech team within Santander Brazil, but in a broader sense. To begin. I think the presentation is not appearing. Can someone help, please? I would like to begin while they fix the issue that we are living a moment that is very important in technology, where we are leaving the tyranny to the end. Whoever has a career in technology, many times we had to give up a specific characteristic of our solution, be it cost, limiting cost, to do it in a reasonable cost. When we talk about experience against security elements, sometimes as speed, cost, security, and nowadays this tyranny is left behind. We have technology that is much more accessible, more granular, and possible to compose a number of aspects without having to specifically be so hard with the trade-off of solutions all those years ago. So welcome whoever likes technology, likes learning. This is a tempting situation, and when we don't need to stay fixed in one solution. So for anyone who knows hype cycle, it's a concept that is very familiar from Gartner. We talk about more metaphorically, we challenge the basic concept of hype cycle. For anyone who knows it, we have a perspective of a technology scaling the expectation to a peak, and then we have a disillusion valley where we remove all the excess to decant the potential of technology, and then we have a plateau where the market recognizes all the limits and potentials of this specific technology. And over the last 2.5 years, the hype cycle basic concepts is being challenged. It's not the curve and valley of disillusion, but we have a clear, completely new concept where we've been at the highest point of the expectation curve, because we see results, we see potential very pragmatically and expensive way. So 2.5 years ago, we found ourselves facing ChatGPT that began through OpenAI, a completely different perspective regarding the easy access benefit of AI. And here we have just a simple examples of great companies and models that began to spread very quickly in a very, very tight race when we look at the last 25 years of technology. When we look at our careers in technology, we've been through the mobile first era, where we saw mobility as a mandate, but also conditions expression, but a device like cell phone. Why is it more complicated in other channels when it's so easy in a cell phone? Then we went on to the cloud, which is something very normal. Then we have hyperconnectivity that is standard and easy, all within companies in API ecosystems, expanding our capacity for solution where everything is connected, is all a service. Then we went, not necessarily in that order, but the stage of discovering what is data-driven mentality, where we make the best decision based with analytic capacity for data, all everything cataloged and standardized in a much easier way, because in the past everything was in the hand of a very few specialists. Today this is a lot easier. When we talk about data, we generate a lot of information. Then we had the concept of cybersecurity and cyber by design that takes a position because of the threats a lot of our everyday life demand, from the zero moment until the conceptualized solution. And finally, more recently, with Web 3.0, the decentralization concept that is stronger and stronger all the time with blockchain and so on, where we have intelligent contract with organizations that are distributed and autonomous, which is creating a new potential for the financial market and all other markets. And we can see all these stages and generations, and we see it's not just one, and it's very nice to see all this composition of knowledge that's being gathered. And where do we put AI within all of this? When we talk about technology evolution. Basically, AI, and I love this concept, defines the new infrastructure. And this is very cool because we can take a physical infrastructure and something that is holding everything that we do. Infrastructure is something that touches everything that we do. And this is the new reality that is knocking on our door, and the opportunity to embrace and interpret AI in all ways. So what's the agent system? This is the definition, to some degree, of the new technology. What defines the new software? So looking this from a different perspective, everything that's been built over the few years in technology was matured, organized, and structured all the steps of distribution. What we see today is some time of presence, not scaled necessarily by AI, but composed with a more traditional stack for composition of system. And we can see the capability for code generation, autocomplete, chatbot models, and so on, present not only in software engineering, but part of solution to the end customer. And the future, as mentioned, will leverage the agent systems, where we have to think and redefine what concept that is very different from all the traditional stack system. Is a change of mindsets when we use AI using all its potential, speed, quality, and scaling. Those are agent systems. If the future is defined with the AI, or everything goes through AI, it depends on how you organize your words. But directly or indirectly, we see that is involved in all interactions in the digital world. When we look at more specific concepts, when I talked about agent systems, this value proposal to scale AI in the construction of solutions, especially in financial markets, is the concept of trusting in self-coordinating systems with the capability of having accuracy and the presence of AI agent that receives the request through prompt, and it's able to do the reasoning, the rationalization of the context, define the ecosystem agent that is better to carry out the task, and then distributing the task. In this, we see standards that are very new, but are very quickly being adopted. For example, the standard of communication standard A2A, agent-to-agent concept, and the whole market adopting and maturing the protocol. And also another protocol suggested by Anthropic that brings the perspective of not only making access easier to based knowledge bases, but also the formulation of context and memory that is fundamental in the continuous interaction. This is a sentence. They're trying to define AI, but the statement by Mark Benioff that is very provoking. And he says, in this year, he has no intention to hire any software engineer, be it a senior or developing level, and leverage the current team and do all additional pipeline work of platform development as an extension of capability on software engineering to agentic systems and AI.
Então, colocando aqui em perspectiva,
So when we take a step back, this is a more fun way of interpreting this. In this agentic ecosystem, when we interpret the interpreting agentic or orchestrating agent is able to interpret the system need or demand by a user through a prompt, and then we infer the identification of these agentic systems of specialized agents that do the task the best way. In a transversal point of view, no agent would do the work alienating the context, and that's the more broad points of view with the agent-to-agent protocol. In this case, we try to illustrate an experience within automation and modernization of software engineering where a senior engineer could trust with agentic system, one that is specialized in software documentation, and I'm talking just within the code, but also effectively in a natural language process the requirements of that system with a tasks format. So our tasks and issues within the running of that will offer quality and speed and leaving more time for specific knowledge and not having the task of formatting or when we know of those traditional backlogs for development or the code generation, or very clearly in this example, the capability of generating test codes, generating codes that will emulate a system in our technical language, the box, and all delegating these tasks that can be done by AI engineering, which is very mature nowadays. And in the point of view of engineering, the time to create the solution in a more functional way, and the person becomes the reviser of the agentic system production. Continuing, in the mixed team, just to make a parallel between reality, we now are human resources that understand the creation of a team that is a blended team, that is be it through human talent or agentic talent. So here we have a parallel. Let's talk about a senior software engineer that is beginning at the company. They will have onboarding, training, lifelong learning, and all the experience that a person has in a normal inflow and maturing over time, including ethical monitoring. And then we have an easy parallel with an onboarding flow of the agent.
And of course, we'll have to find the model that we will pre-select for it to perform in the workflow, what kind of workflow it is going to integrate to. There are going to be guardrails of ethical principles, results, and so on and so forth. Well, what we recognize looking at all of this, that actually today, if we had to define the biggest transformation that we are all experiencing in the financial sector is speed, without a shadow of doubt. Both from the perspective of what the competition race of all providers is, providers that are experts in AI tools on the market, or we as AI consumers. And AI is definitely the best fuel that will provide us with the speed that is required today.
Como a IA ajuda na velocidade?
How can IA help in speed? Because AI is a form of automation. That's a simple definition. However, we can put the automation capacity in other levels because we can automate not only repetitive tasks but also the co-creation of high added value activities and tasks. Of course, we have to always consider the human pilot. However, it is another scale of automation. So the amplification of benefits is unparalleled in the last 2 years and a half when AI came into public towards the end of 2022.
Por outro lado,
On the other hand,
ela tem o benefício de
just like any other automation, it can accelerate, automate, but once it is done at this level, the error also reflects a similar level of loss. So we have to reflect on this. How can we ponder,
ter uma escala que a
how can we avoid error to become something uncontrollable? And there are many ways to tackle this. One of them is to create a guardrail mechanism or an AI judge, which are judges, AI judges, with the proposals for solutions for other models. So translating that, we can use AI in a more specific way by doing this groundness conceptualization. What does it mean? Looking at the context, avoiding alienation of AI and any deviation towards hatred or sexual abuse, we can have experts do this guardrail because, of course, it is important to have the guardrails at the same level.
copiloto que é IA,
So, Copilot, which is AI, definitely needs limits and supervision. And the pilots, who are us, it is a change of paradigm, and it is a different way to do things and to think, but we'll never lose our essence, which is our
nessa primeira parte, que é uma parte
specialization in what we do.
imaginar que
So let's imagine
perspectiva de trabalho,
the perspective of a developer today.
uma fração do seu tempo, o trabalho
So he works with creation, which is a high added value task, but he has other jobs, other tasks, which are tasks with low added value but are necessary, such as documentation, the obsolescence cycles of software, etc. In the future, devs will become super devs, and in this blended team, he will count on an agentic
mas o que eu queria destacar
team that will be responsible for tasks with less added value. However,
o maior potencial talvez esteja na
the greatest potential is in intercession, because if we only think of AI to replace our activities, our repetitive actives, we will not take the best of it, because we want to always to consider the expertise in the command.
para trazer para vocês pouco da nossa experiência no Santander.
To share some of our experience at Santander, now in practice, according to our operations at Santander and at First, which is our technology company, the first perspective is what I was saying. It makes a lot of difference in a use case that we're going to prioritize the following. For example, if we choose to replace a repetitive tasks that is done by a team of people, what is the maximum potential? It is the job done job done by this group of people. But when we can deliver high added value task through AI, we can cause much more impact in your business depending on your use case. For example, in revenues, if we can, for example, save investor assessor time, it can have more time for relationships and he can prepare this pitch, but the preparation of his pitch will be done by AI. So, or software engineering, which is in the lower line, will have more time of creation and co-creation with agentic systems and produce make software with more quality and faster.
Então, passando aqui,
Here
como a gente organiza, né,
is how we organize the application of AI at Santander. This is a very simplified way, but from the
responsável, né,
from the issue of governance and ethics and responsible AI, with a platform that helps us pave the use of AI through many different areas in our operation. What is this? It is a platform that is going to help us
através de ferramentas, padrões
by means of tools and predefined standards. We can use different standards from our use cases, but again, in a much more abstract way
e ali operações de
to use the solution. In IT solutions, back office services and safety. So to start in IT,
do que a gente está fazendo.
here is a little bit of what we are doing. Software engineering, which is SDLC, software development lifecycle. We have applied it to production, which are already in use, or assessing our technologies that are under experimentation today. And it covers all stages, requirement generation, what we call RTT, requirement to tasks, okay? As I told you before, we have Copilot for more than 3,000 people. But of course, we are building a model on market LLM, and I'm going to comment about it in the next slide. Under tests, we have a lot of interesting things going on, and under monitoring, we have L. Davis AI that helps in interpreting predictives and correlations in monitoring of abnormalities, so we can see that in a broad perspective at all levels.
Este é um caso que eu queria destacar para
This is a case I'd like to highlight that we developed based on anthropic model,
os resultados são tão impressionantes.
and the results are very impressive. In a use case, a test that requires a lot of efforts of developers, which is the continuous monitoring of obsolescence, we got 90% of accuracy in this model.
Ordem de magnitude de resultados.
Here we have these results for Angla and Java, just to mention two examples. Work time, working hours from 40 to 7 minutes for the conversion of a model in Java or a program. And of course, cost reduction. There is a price reference here, $3 to $5 per conversion. So how would it cost 40 hours of development versus 3 to 5 hours?
Mas para citar caso super
There is a pipeline, but another interesting case, we have an alphanumeric taxpayer registry. We have this challenge, and we are using the interpretation and the proposal to solve this alphanumerical taxpayer code. Another interesting case is a pitch maker that delivers much more, that allows developers, that allow investor assessors much more time of relationship. We call it the ability for individual investors. And in the preparation of pitch, we can personalize product portfolio and the customer's context, we can create a pitch, and we can start with our customer relationship. In our customer service centrals, we are supporting customers. For example, customers, they have a question, for example, so instead of looking for our servers, instead of looking for something in our directories, our bots can respond it, assist our customer service providers, and that reduces our time by 22%. It all started with an informative chat, right? So you can have that at an early moment, thinking about a customer service under the supervision of a human operator to understand about this AI interaction, and this evolves to a concept of, even if intermediate by an operator of the central. Using this example, we have an IA that can run operations or transactions, and you can have an autonomous bank where you go out of the logic of an extension of a human team and to an autonomous team with memory, precision, accuracy in the performance and of consultations and transactions to customers. Of course, this will increase our NPS rates in terms of time, use of AI in a very responsible way, taking care of derailing and data drifting. But of course, lead time and the costs will drop a lot with this evolution. In back office, just to give you some examples, today we analyze legal documents with a great accuracy, and we have an SLA, and we have improved almost 30% of this SLA by delegating LLM models those legal documents. But we don't stop there. We are in a very interesting process that is maturing now, which is the identification of powers to open company accounts, to understand the level of powers in the composition of a company, and we can do it in a very precise way. And of course, we are basing ourselves in engineering, so we have a platform that does large language model platforms. Here are a few examples that are spread to all areas of the bank that use AI. Guardrails, of course, and there is a technical difference that we're not going to speak about, but in terms of guardrails, we have from the shelf solutions, from cloud servers, but we also have the ability to personalize these guardrails, and a complementary concept to is judges, a concept of context that we call groundness, which is to ground the context to avoid alienation, and also relevance versus the prompt to avoid data drifts. In terms of data, we are putting the MCP skills in our infrastructure that helps us a lot in the switch from one model to another in terms of consumption of the LLM. So we have different databases. So we change the interface. We are using a successful standard. We're putting MCP servers in our infrastructure to accelerate the building of agentic systems and SDKs, etc., to facilitate this platform to the whole Santander community. And the journey continues. We're not going to cover all cases. Obviously, here it's just a sample of what we are doing. We are at a very accelerated pace, but it is very interesting, to tell you the truth. And to wrap up, we go out from a logic of understanding our opportunity, not only by that our joint thought from moving from autonomous systems more than Web 3.0, such as blockchain, smart contracts, etc. So imagine the automation of this with agentic systems to a reality where we have to live and breathe. Fast, agile companies guided by AI. Of course, it requires upskill, change of paradigm in operative models. And to wrap up, as my time is up, I would say AI is not a specialty. Rather, it is a natural extension in the way we all work. And we don't want to lag behind. Please start today. Let's take the moment and enjoy this AI technology now. Thank you.
Obrigada, Richard.